Today, I will tell you a story about true love and fidelity, a story that at first resembled a beautiful fairy tale but ended in tears due to a monstrous actions. In 1994, in the city of Jeon, Punjab, India, there lived a handsome young man named Sukhwinder Singh Sidhu, affectionately called Mithu by his friends and family. Mithu worked as a rickshaw driver, using a small vehicle to transport people. In his free time he played Kadi Kadi, an ancient team game that combines elements of wrestling and tag. Mithu was a well-known and strong player in his community, even leading his team to victory. In November 1994, a girl named Jaswinder Kaur Sidhu, or just Jas, came to stay in the city where Mithu lived. She quickly learned about the popular Kadi player and wanted to meet him. Jas worked as a driver. One day, while she and her mother were standing at a bus stop, a rickshaw pulled up. Mithu, noticing the pretty stranger, felt an instant attraction. When their eyes met, Jas blushed and looked away. After Mithu finished his workday, he returned home. That evening, he heard screams outside. "Someone help us!" Mithu rushed out and found two girls in distress. One was the same modest stranger he had given a ride to earlier. Jas and her friend explained that their scooter had broken down. Mithu, eager to help, introduced himself and got to work fixing the scooter. However, since Jas only spoke English and didn't know Punjabi, her friend translated their conversation. Once the scooter was fixed, Mithu learned where Jas lived. Although she wasn't allowed to receive guests, they secretly communicated through her window, holding hands and expressing their feelings, despite the language barrier. It was clear that love blossomed between them. A few years later, Jas's family moved to Canada, where they lived in a large house with close relatives. Growing up under strict supervision, Jas was shielded from many outside influences. She was a quiet, modest girl, well-educated, and polite. In 1994, she returned to India with her mother, Malkiat Kaur Sidhu, to visit her grandparents. Mithu learned that Jas's family was among the richest in the area, respected landowners with a successful business. Meanwhile, Mithu came from a poor farming family and only graduated high school. Despite their differences in status, Jas chose Mithu for his kindness and beautiful soul rather than his wealth. As the date of her return to Canada approached, Jas became distraught at the thought of leaving Mithu. In a moment of desperation, she tore up her passport and lied to her mother, claiming she had lost it and could not return to Canada. Her family was upset, but Jas used the extra time to meet Mithu secretly. After 20 days, she received a new passport, and in January 1995 she flew back to Canada. Despite the distance, their love remained strong. They exchanged letters. Jas wrote in English while Mithu wrote in Punjabi, with friends helping to translate. Jas even studied Punjabi to communicate better with Mithu over the phone. They scheduled calls, with Jas using her parents' phone and Mithu calling from a public booth. Over the next 4 years, their love only grew stronger, defying the challenges of distance. In 1999, Jas's family returned to India, this time with the important task of arranging a marriage for her. Jas's uncle, Surjik, found a wealthy landowner who was 60 years old, a man old enough to be Jas's father. Naturally, she reacted negatively to the news of her impending marriage, expressing her strong desire not to marry someone so much older. Unbeknownst to her relatives, Jas had been in a secret relationship with Mithu for 4 years. Understanding the potential consequences of revealing this secret, she kept silent. However, one day she confided in her aunt, telling her, "If I can't marry Mithu, I will die without him." Together they decided that the lovers should marry in secret, hoping that once married, Jas's family would accept Mithu. On March 15, 1999, Mithu and Jas went to the Gurdwara and were married quietly, away from prying eyes. After the wedding, Jas returned home without anyone noticing. Meanwhile, her engagement to the older man was continually postponed and eventually cancelled. Jas stayed in India for 2 months, continuing her secret meetings with Mithu. When the time came for her to return to Canada, she promised Mithu that she would come back soon. They kept in touch by phone as Mithu's house now had a telephone line. Months later, in early 2000, Jas's relatives learned about her secret marriage. They reacted with outrage, demanding that Jas be confined to her room and forbidding her from using the phone. Days later, Malkiat Kaur, Jas's mother, changed her tone. She approached Jas and told her, "What's done is done. The family has decided to accept your relationship. We will arrange a grand wedding for you in India, and then you can move to Canada." This news filled Jas with joy. However, a few days later, her mother handed her a stack of papers to sign, explaining that it was necessary for Mithu to be summoned to Canada. Jas, unaware of the trap, signed each page, including one that falsely claimed, "I, Jas Winder Kaur Sidhu, declare that Sukhwinder Singh Sidhu kidnapped me and forced me to marry him at gunpoint." This document was sent to the Punjab State Police, leading to Mithu's arrest for kidnapping and illegal possession of weapons. He spent months in prison while Jas remained in Canada, continuing to write letters to him without receiving any responses. Realizing her relatives were behind this betrayal, Jas felt devastated. Eventually, with help from her father, who suffered from schizophrenia, and her brother, Jas escaped back to India. Once there, she approached the Punjab State Police, insisting that Mithu and his family were innocent and that she had married him out of love. With Jas's testimony, Mithu and his relatives were released. Reunited, Jas promised Mithu she would never return to Canada again. They lived in hiding, fearful of further repercussions. On June 7, 2000, they received a phone call from Canada. Mithu's uncle answered and heard Jas's mother's voice, who reassured them, "What you've done makes us happy. We will celebrate your wedding grandly." However, a few hours later, another call came in. This time, Malkiat spoke sternly to Mithu, warning him that he would have to pay dearly for his actions. Jas's uncle Surjik also threatened him, stating, "You don't understand the family you've gotten involved with. Your actions will haunt you and your future generations." Mithu hung up, troubled by the call and realizing that he and Jas would never truly be safe. On June 12th, they planned to celebrate their reunion. That day, Jas asked Mithu to take her out shopping. At first he hesitated, concerned for their safety, but eventually agreed. After shopping and enjoying a cup of coffee, they set off on their scooter to return home. Unfortunately, the scooter broke down multiple times, and they had to seek help from a mechanic. As night fell, they were delayed and took their time returning home. Late that evening, Mithu's family received alarming news. Their son was in the hospital in serious condition. Jasik could not be found when her parents rushed to the hospital. Mithu was unconscious but regained consciousness a couple of hours later. He had suffered a serious head injury, and once his condition stabilized, he provided the police with a detailed account of what had happened. Mithu explained that while returning from the market with Jas, he noticed they were being followed by two unknown men on a scooter. After a while, the strangers fell behind. As they approached their home, a car suddenly blocked the road, and 6 men emerged. Mithu and Jas were confused and didn't understand what was happening when the assailants began to beat them. Mithu fought back to protect Jas, but he was struck on the head from behind, losing consciousness. Believing him to be dead, the attackers dragged him into a nearby ditch and left him there. Fortunately, a couple of hours later, workers passing by discovered Mithu and took him to the hospital. Meanwhile, the Punjab police launched an active search for the missing girl. Tragically, they found Jas's body a short distance from where Mithu had been left. Officers reported that she had been fatally stabbed in the neck. When the police contacted Jas's relatives in Canada to identify the body, neither Malkiat Kaur confirmed that the deceased was Jas. However, Mithu's parents and friends were able to identify her. The inaction of Jas's family drew scrutiny, and the Punjab police quickly began investigating this high-profile case. During their investigation, they apprehended a notorious troublemaker named Anil Kumar, who confessed that he had been hired by Police Inspector Jaginder Singh to carry out the murder of Mithu. Both Anil and Jaginder were arrested, with Jaginder implicating Darshina Singh, Jas's uncle, who was living in Punjab. Darshina had promised Anil a reward of 3 lakhs, approximately $4,000, to ensure the job was completed. Anil admitted that after they attacked Mithu and presumed him dead, they kidnapped Jas. When she regained consciousness, she frantically searched for Mithu, but the criminals told her he was dead. Anil then called Malkiat Kaur, handing the phone to Jas. Malkiat ordered her to return to Canada immediately. Realizing the betrayal, Jas shouted into the phone, "Mom, what have you done? You've betrayed me!" The bandits threatened Jas, demanding that she testify against Mithu and comply with her mother's wishes. Despite the intimidation, she resisted. Anil later called Malkiat again, insisting Jas needed to listen to them. Malkiat consented to get rid of Jas, with Uncle Surjik promising another 3 lakhs for her silence. Following Anil Kumar's confession, police arrested 11 more individuals, including Surjaderm, Jas's uncle, who became a primary suspect. Trials for both the murder of Jas and the attack on Mithu commenced in India and Canada. The prevailing belief was that Malkiat Kaur and Surjik had orchestrated the events leading to both Mithu's attack and Jas's murder. After a prolonged trial in October 2005, the court found 11 out of 13 defendants guilty. However, they were later released on bail and given reduced sentences. Mithu, on the other hand, faced severe repercussions after his recovery. 7 criminal cases were filed against him, including accusations of illegal possession of weapons and drug trafficking, along with a claim from a wife who alleged abuse. He spent 4 years in prison before finally proving his innocence. Throughout this ordeal, Mithu received threats from Jas's family, who attempted to coerce him into retracting his statements. They even offered him a significant sum of money and land, but he remained steadfast in his commitment to truth. After Jas's death, Malkiat Kaur and Uncle Surjik continued their lives in Canada, still under suspicion. The Punjab police filed for their extradition, and they were eventually found guilty in 2012. Malkiat was employed at a waste processing plant, while Surjik served as a minister in a temple. In September 2014, their extradition to India was approved, but they appealed the decision, prolonging the legal process. Finally, in January 2019, the Punjab police flew to Canada to arrest them. Just 4 days later, they were released on bail. As of now, 24 years have passed since the crime, and the case remains unresolved in court. Anil Kumar and Inspector Jaginder Singh continue to serve their sentences, while Jas's uncle has managed to evade justice, with his whereabouts unknown. Malkiat Kaur and Surjik now live in India, avoiding media inquiries and refusing to comment on Jas's case. Mithu believes he has faced a tragic fate. He never remarried after losing Jas. Instead, he has devoted his life to seeking justice for their love story that was marred by betrayal and violence. Share your thoughts about this story in the comments and don't forget to like this video. Thanks for watching.